Good evening. We are back with Quizzy Monday. Last week, I was sick as a dog and would not have made for an entertaining show, but we are back. And tonight we have a couple of great guests coming on. First up will be Chris Ducklin from Mastermind, a thrilling Mastermind game. And then we've got Justin Lee coming on from University Challenge later to tell us about his experiences as a Imperial player, imperiously getting through into the semi-finals of University Challenge. We won't be spending time over the Only Connect special tonight because it's a repeat. We will be giving the nominations for Quizzer Team of the Week, and we will be looking at the Mastermind Predictions competition. So all of that to come. Before we get going, I just want to say a word about Sean O'Neill, a Welsh quizzer. I've known him since 2006. We've quizzed together on the Welsh national team. He's an absolute stalwart. Sadly, he passed away recently. Loveliest guy you could meet. Wonderful sense of humour. Great quizzer. And really in the formative days of international quizzing, he was there going out, travelling Europe and playing. And he will be a big loss to the Welsh quiz community and the broader quiz community. So we send our love to his wife, Mickey, and his teammates and friends. And yeah, he won't be forgotten. So farewell, Sean. And yes, we will move on, as quizzing has to move on, into stuff from tonight. And I noticed there are some people in the chat. That's good. There's a few people watching. Catherine saying evening all. Gerard, hello, even Catherine and all the lurkers who haven't yet commented. And also Gerard is saying Kong Hei Fat Choi, happy Lunar New Year to those of you who celebrate, including our very own Huang Yi from our Patreon group. So let's get cracking. Let's bring on Chris from an absolutely thrilling Mastermind heat. Evening, Chris.
Good evening, Gareth. How are you?
I am fine. How are you after God knows how many months waiting for that episode to be broadcast, to finally see it?
I don't know. I think it's interesting how you go through on the process of say coming to terms with things. Taking the loss at the time. I mean, it's no discredit. I think any one of us could have won that because it was 20-all. I think each of us had probably answers that we got wrong that we knew. I think Richard was obviously a worthy winner on the tie-break, and congratulated him after the show and in the hotel afterwards. And he effectively asked him about his specialist subject, and he said he got a couple of Winnie the Pooh questions. One particular, I think, was regarding what word was on one of the illustrations on the pot, and he said he was too busy reading the books and doing the notes, and he didn't really pay much attention to the illustrations. And it just goes to show you how thin a line there is between defeat and victory. Even though he still won, he could have won it just on fair normal gameplay without the tiebreaker. And I think it's difficult at that sort of coming to terms on having a close game. But I think today was a case of just the anticipation of it. It's coming up and it's been building and building. And this afternoon I was sort of on the train home, and I met my partner on the train home, and I was practically bouncing into anticipation, even though I knew the result beforehand, even though it was sort of predetermined. I'm not wearing the same shirt because I'm not sort of just come out of the studio from Belfast.
I mean, that's interesting because I have a weirdness that I never really have much interest in looking at shows where I've lost. Maybe I'll watch it once, but that's it. For me, it's combined to the dustbin. But I too have lost in a semi in a tiebreak. It was semi-final, and it's interesting. You talked about coming to terms with it. It is something that you do have to process, because for all everybody says, it's a game, it's just a quiz, it's not life and death, etc. You do put an awful lot of work into it, don't you? And to have that fine margin, it does take a bit of processing.
It does. I mean, I'll give you the breakdown of my experience. So effectively, when I did University Challenge for the University of East London back in 2016, I think, 2016 was a leap year. And afterwards, I sort of got the bug. I joined OQL, but before I joined OQL, I was still studying at university, and I applied for Mastermind, and I did the audition, and I didn't particularly do that well, and I didn't really get in, and I just thought, okay, fine, you've tried. I didn't really give it much thought afterwards, and the aim at the time was to get on Only Connect, and effectively, the first program I was applying for with a couple of mates who weren't people I eventually went on with Thomas Gwynne and Mick Levin in 2019, with a couple of old schoolmates of mine, and effectively, I've got into University of East London, and they just had the advert up for applying for the University Challenge. I just applied for it for giggles. It'll just be an experience. You might get an audition, and eventually we went all the way to a certain extent to get on and win our first game. And you think, University of East London, really? No. Okay, first time they've been on, and they went on again a couple of years later. But effectively, as part of that, I applied for Only Connect first. Mastermind wasn't really on the radar because it seemed to me to be, well, the University Challenge is also difficult, but I just applied for it for a laugh. But I applied for Only Connect, and effectively in their thing said, oh, by the way, I'm on the University Challenge. And they go, oh, well, we can't interview now because that would confuse people, because we can't just have you on one program one week and a different program a different week, and it's okay. Now, to keep that as well, there's a lot of secrets I kept from people about University Challenge, but that's too long a story. So anyway, did Only Connect, which I lost again on the tiebreaker back in 2019 to I think Steve Lilly's team, which were, I think, the Junipers, I think Gin Lovers, Junipers, yeah. And I applied for Mastermind, and again in 2000, no, in 2020, not 2000, 2020. And I did the auditions in London and had a good time, and then got shortlisted, and said, okay, fine, here's your shortlist, here's your books, here's all the Jack Ryan books, which was 8 or 9 books. And then thought, right, I'm in January. March, COVID hits. Uncertainty all over the place. It's like you don't really want to start because you don't necessarily want to know what's going, and you don't really want to contact the production team because the production team have got plenty on their hands at that time, March 2020, trying to figure out how they're going to make a show. And eventually, I'm still shortlisted, and they reassure me my shortlist is shortlisted. Fill out this, and effectively, I got medicaled out. I had a medical condition due to COVID. It was probably too difficult for me to travel and insure and whatever, and I was rather disappointed. I went through, especially due to COVID, I was working from home. I just had an intense reading session of waking up, reading, doing a bit of work, lunchtime reading, doing a bit of work, then sort of tea time onwards reading, because there's nothing else to do. We haven't got at that stage, sort of June, July time, nothing much going on. And OQL, the online quiz league, OQL, was just sort of in its embryonic stages. People still had dodgy internet connections, so you couldn't really enjoy your quizzes. And that's all I had to drive me, was to try and get on Mastermind. And I read the 9 books, and by the time I read the 9 books, the email came through saying, sorry, unfortunately, we can't take you on. And it's like, oh my goodness, okay. Would you be interested next year? I went, of course I would be interested next year. But effectively, next year they sort of phoned me up. So, are you still interested? Yeah, I'm still interested. No, I didn't hear anything again. I think probably due to the risk. 2022, I didn't even apply because I thought, well, they didn't take me the first time. They didn't take me the second time. Maybe they'll take me. I took it for granted, and I didn't even get an email. So, okay, I thought, fine, let's apply this time, and for 2023. And effectively, I got in as a reserve. So, anyone listening who gets, and this also applies to the University Challenge, if you're put down as a reserve or a standby, don't get stroppy about it, because almost inevitably something may or may not happen. And I think, I was a reserve for 2023, and I got on, and I effectively, for this period of 2023, I'd read the books, and I didn't reread the books. I was tempted to just go through the audio books and realised they're about 30 something pounds a shot, and thought, is it worth me paying a thick end of 250 to 300 pounds just to listen to the audio books while I write questions? And I thought, no, I've just got my notes. I'll just write the questions, do a slide deck, practice, and a couple of questions which I got wrong, which were the Monty Python one and the Mozart and Monty Python 40 Towers and Mozart and Bach, which I said was Dostoevsky. I got wrong, and effectively I'm kicking myself because I didn't put them down on notes.
And that's
sorry, that was rather long.
No, that's fine. It's interesting because we forget how disrupted things were back in those days, and how many factors there were in terms of protecting people. And it's interesting. I mean, I've been a reserve myself on multiple game shows, and some you get on, some you don't get on. I think with something like Mastermind, because there are 96 first round contestants, I think it is, there's a good chance that some of those are gonna get ill or have something happen and not be able to make it. So then it's that dilemma that you had of, okay, how much work do I put in? And you'd at least done a lot of the legwork. You'd read the books, you'd made your notes. So less tricky for you. Looking back now and having seen, the questions tonight, with jogging your memory, would you have done anything differently preparing for actually going on this time?
I think there's. I did over 1,000 questions in my Anki deck, and I thought I had it covered. I mean, you'll probably cover it when you come to your what questions are asked competition a bit later. There was certain things I was expecting, which fine. If you know Clancy, you'd probably ask them, and I thought, I think if again you've probably written for it, and it's probably a pain writing for books. And if you have 9 or 10 books in that series, then you could argue that potentially I thought some of the questions were a little bit softballish, if you get it. You get the nice easy one, which runs first book. Ronald Reagan liked it. Rod in October, fine, that's great. Nice easy one to get you comfortable, move on. And then I think, I don't know, I mean, it'd be interesting to, I don't know, like yourself, as you say, you enjoyed it. I think just get other quizzes' feedback on that performance. I think the Monty Python 40 Towers one, which to me, again, looking back on it, was a glaring miss, because you're thinking in that book series, they don't mention British culture much, even though Patriot Games is in England and Red Rabbit is in England. And you think to yourself, you should have just picked that up. That it's a reference to a BBC programme. Chances are they might ask it. And I think you could overthink it, but
did you go back and look at your flashcards afterwards? Because you said 1,000 flashcards. That is pretty much what I would expect a good quizzer to be doing, that level of preparation for a subject. Did you then think, was this just me not recalling it, or did it pass me by? It sounds like that one passed you by. What about the others? Have you double checked since?
There was one that the German one, Edward From, which wasn't From, it was someone else, which I think
it was.
Yeah, I think there's quite a lot of in my prep, because quite a lot of the Tom Clancy books, quite a lot of Russian names, or even Chinese names later in the book series, and it was trying to make. Sorry.
Oh, I lost
you.
Yeah,
no, my fault.
Sorry.
It was trying to make the questions and the learning interesting for me. So quite a lot of the questions, if they were names that were not very recognizable, not the hero characters, but supporting characters who had names like Roger Sensky or something along those lines. Like the Filatov question about who the Cardinal was, well, he's a sort of main character in that book, but there's plenty of supporting characters who will also be questions. But then you just go through the wiki page of what I'd do is go through the wiki page of someone of that surname of a supporting character, and find out if there's someone else that has had that surname that has done something sort of notable. And quite a lot of what's went in has gone out now, but it seemed to work at the time when I was going through the Yankee decks and processing.
Yeah, that's an interesting technique, isn't it? If it's an unfamiliar name or a name that's not significant for any real reason, even within the text, if you can peg it to something else, that's a technique. Why did you choose books in the first place? Because, you know, you could just as easily have chosen the films of Jack Ryan novels, couldn't you? And probably made your life a little easier.
I don't like the films of Jack Ryan. I Red October, great film, great book. Patriot Games, yeah, generally okay. I kind of like the book, and Clear and Present Danger, not so much. And then Summer of All Fears, Ben Affleck, Summer of All Fears, and then they sort of messed it up with Jack Ryan, Shadow Recruit, and Amazon did the Jack Ryan series, which I haven't got interest in. And even there's something, I think it was either the commentary, Tom Clancy did the DVD commentary, or one of the DVD commentaries for Summer of All Fears or Clear and Present Danger, and he absolutely hates them. It's just one of those things where the author hates them. And I mean, of the specialist subjects I chose and shortlisted, it was difficult. I wouldn't necessarily, as a young child, I just didn't get English literature and sort of the classical nature of it and sort of the poetic nature of it. I didn't really, I appreciate Shakespeare now, but I didn't at the time. And there's other things like, Side with Rosie and other literature, Inspector Calls, things like that, which just didn't do anything for a teenage kid in the 1980s who'd rather just be playing computer games on his ZX Spectrum and listening to music and watching trashy TV. And then sort of it came to a point, I can't remember whether I watched Red October first or the movie first or read the book, and I don't know what brought me into it. But at that age, you're a kid, you like games, and it's like, here's a tech thriller, here's loads of people going around doing loads of spy things. It's equivalent. I mean, to a certain extent, I've read more Tom Clancy books than I've read James Bond books because they just sort of, at the time in the present day, fine. As a criticism, they've got the politics are probably slightly dodgy, and the way the women characters are awful in those books. But for me, in terms of getting me into reading, that got me into reading. It was just, a page turner, a page turner. You get the paperbacks, and they come out every 1 or 2 years. The hardback at that time, the hardback would come out, and then you wait a year for a paperback. And it was just sort of, it sounds a bit cliche, but it's my Harry Potter.
No, I absolutely get it. And I think, the recognition you could see at times when you were getting answers correct, or knowing where it was going. It's like
my body language. That episode was something else.
Yeah,
I was just looking at my partner's sitting next to me while we're watching, just laughing her head off. Just going.
So you got 9 points, which was a couple off the lead, but you're an experienced quizzer, Quiz League London, OQL, etc. So you'll have known you had a chance. You started off well, and then you kind of hit a sticky patch in the middle. I mean, it's hard to keep clarity of thought, isn't it, at that point when you can't buy a guess? And some of your guesses, were good, like the bistro for brasserie, for example.
Yeah, my partner just screamed at me when I got that wrong.
So, I mean, did you have a feeling of, oh, hang on, this, you'd seen a couple of people get 20. Did you have a feeling of I'm going to struggle to get there, or I'm, okay? What is going on?
Okay, well, I'll give you an insight, and this has probably happened to you or other people. So I did it, and then I think I don't know the exact route, but you can notice it if you look at the recording. I noticed it. There's numerous times when my body language and my position changes because there's more than one recording of that. So effectively, early on, about 4 or 5 questions in, he does the LP lumber puncture. I gave the answer number punch, which I do on the thing, and then effectively he ADRs it and goes, at the time, incorrect lumbar puncture, and I just do a big head roll, right? So at that time, I think I start stumbling because I go through about not a very good patch of, I think it was Tosca, Sweden. Oh, Taylor Swift, HSBC,
Mammals, yeah.
Mammals was awful.
Yeah.
I'll go. But anyway, so lumbar puncture was incorrect at the time. So I get 19. I end up with 19, and I've got a face like a sow. Because I'm third on. The first two people in front of me have got 20. I've got a face like, I don't know. In picking up a pound coin off the floor, I've dropped a fiver. I've got that sort of hang dog, and I'm sure there's elements of that body language still in that recording. And so, effectively, it was not the most trouble-free recording. So, I think Emily, Richard, and Jake, in each of their specialist subjects, at the end of theirs, they're sitting down, and then what I would call quiz VAR comes down. One of the production team comes down and just clarifies a question. And each time quiz VAR comes down, and again, lost the bob and found the tenner. Thanks, Duncan. Yep. Well, I didn't. I lost the. I found the bob and lost the tenner. But yeah. Anyway, so each time quiz VAR came down for Emily, Richard, and Jake, they lost a point on their specialist subjects, and you're thinking, okay, this is fine. Nothing happens in my specialist subject. Lumbar punch gets answered doing my GK, and we're told at doing it. If you think you disagree with an answer, just put your hand up and stop. Ask to be stopped, and they'll stop and they'll debate it. And my physical reaction is there, but my head's going. So effectively, part of my medical condition, which stopped me going in 2020 as part of, I had a number of lumbar punctures as part of my previous medical history. And I was fairly certain that lumbar punch was an answer, but I could have been wrong, but I think I was right. At the end of my GK, nothing happens. Quiz VAR does not come down. I'm just sitting in the fourth chair with just a grumpy old soul. And I'm going, okay, fine. Then Emily comes down for hers, gets 20, finishes. Then there's an uncomfortable pause. They call me back to sit in the seat. And I can't remember the exact, again, it's such a muddle at this time. I can't remember the exact process. They call me back in the exact seat because effectively during my introduction, I say something like the Jack Ryan novels of Tom Clancy or the Jack Ryan novels by Tom Clancy. And I've got to say it, use of or by the exact way. So I'm doing that. And then Quizvar comes down and says, Mr. Ducklin, yes. Yeah, you gave the answer lumbar punch. We've just been looking at it and we can confirm that lumbar punch is acceptable because it is slang for lumbar punch. And I'm going, oh, so in an instant from last place to equal first. Because at the end of it, everyone's just looking at each other going, you got 20, you got 20. How many passes do you do? How many passes do you do? We don't know. I think I did one. Are you counting passes? I don't know. So I was last to equal first to the tiebreaker. So you just go from sort of zero to elated and relieved in just like that. Wow. And it was, And then, by the way.
Then you have to go into the tie break.
Yes.
How much is of that kind of, zero to hero up and down kind of thing? How much does that affect you or mess with you? Because it's intense, that tie break, and kind of slightly unlike the rest of the show in a way. But looking at it and looking at the questions, they were a tough set of questions.
Yeah.
Did you feel that kind of, if you'd gone into that in a kind of a really kind of good feeling of momentum, that it might have been different? Or, what was that kind of mindset as you go back into that chair?
I can't. So, in fact, I guess people have described it before, but you just get taken. But you walk. The production team tell you what to do. You walk off. Again, had to retake that because I couldn't get off that stage fast enough to get to wherever I was supposed to be going. So Richard goes first, I walk off and the production team take me to the dressing room and put me in the dressing room, and my heart's going at goodness knows what. I don't think I was wearing a watch because you just don't want electrical interference or stuff. But check the heart rate, and you're just sitting in there, and you're going over. I was going over the questions that I got wrong in the GK, which effectively, cost me the game. And the one thing that gets me is the mammal one, which was absolutely stupid, because I'm sure I need to watch it again. I'm sure I say to myself, sort of without imperceptibly, and just mail to myself, "Ma'am," or "Ma'am," or something like that. And how on earth I didn't just go mammal for that? But what happened again in the prep, in the running up to it, I was testing myself. I was going through quiz books. My partner was testing me, and when she wasn't around and I wasn't sort of going through, sort of opening the page, just reading questions and double checking the answers, I was using something called Amazon Quick Quiz on Alexa, which is a fairly quick fire questions. You've got to answer them quickly. Hello, Amazon. Hello, Alexa. Yeah, shut up, please. Thank you. So I was going through that program, and it's a quick quiz, and it rewards you by sort of adding time to your timer. So if you delay, you just lose time off the time, and you can answer as many questions. It was some of the questions came up quite regularly, and one of which was what name is given to animals who are born in a pouch, and and it's marsupial, and that's what came into my head. And it's just because it's just been repetition of that potential question. It just came into, and I went into the dressing room, and I might have said a few curse words, said a few Anglo-Saxon expletives, and then realised I'm still. I know. Hopefully, I feel sorry for the sound man, because I'm probably still mic'd up, and he can probably hear what I'm saying. So then you just sort of turn it out, and you think, "Oh my goodness, I've got a tie break. I've probably insulted the sound man by swearing quite a lot while in the dressing room." And you come out to the tie break, and I don't. I think as you said, nothing. Nothing can prepare. I mean, I say nothing can prepare you for that. Quite a lot of that tie breaks happen in online quiz, like the Mimirs especially, but it's a completely different experience.
Yeah, it's an odd thing, like those 5 question shootout, the ability to think clearly. I found that all my adrenaline had been up for the main quiz, and I crashed by the time it came to the tie break.
I think what lost it for me was effectively listening to the question. I think we're spoiled in elements of Mimir quiz, because there's been discussion in the past about listening to the question and passing a question, and whether you sort of are reading the question, and the pros and cons of each, and whether it's acceptable or whether it just gives advantages to people. And the JP, and again also in team quiz, I think I would have potentially on at least one or two of them asked for the question to be reread, but didn't necessarily in that, because I didn't think you're just not thinking straight or clearly about that. It's like the JP Morgan. If you had just sort of read that on a piece of paper and had taken time on it and just looked at J and then P, it would have gone click.
Yeah.
The Last of Us was easy, and it's like I couldn't think of a Viennese one, and it's like Mozart's not from Viennese. He's from Salzburg, you idiot. But just slap Mozart up, because that's what they do on Counterpoint. What the other ones? Telemark. Telemark.
Which was the only thing I could think of, but I thought that was like a landing in ski jumping.
Yeah, I thought that was too. Yeah. And it's like, if they had just put in a kicker of what it shares its name with a location used in a war film with Kirk Douglas and Richard Harris, which is on every 6 months on BBC Two on a Saturday afternoon. And then -40, it was I just had the wrong equation. I had them 9/5 minus 32 or something equation in my head, and just minus 32 or something came up as a big number. And as I just thought about it, I thought, well, minus 32 is where it's on the vertical axis, not the crossing point, you fool. But no, all credit to Richard. He's a worthy winner, and he's I wish him the best for the semi-finals. And I think as we come up to the semi-finals, I think I'd have probably struggled. I think what I've observed and noticed in semi-finals of previous series is you have people who maybe don't, have used up all that energy or put in all that time on getting the first subject good, and then the second subject you've only got from recording, usually from July to September. So you got 2 months, give or take the summer holidays, the disruption of the summer holidays, whatever. And I had not considered or started my second subject, and there's subsequently to that, it still looks like a mess around there, but there was some element of doing house clearance we started house clearing in the summer for renovations, and it's like that wouldn't have mixed with trying to do questions. I'd embarrass myself because the production team doing the interview said, what are your targets? And to a certain extent, the easy answer is to win the easy answer to that is to win the thing. And I said, well, that's sort of easy. And I think, yeah, thanks, Duncan. 32 Fahrenheit is 0 degrees C.
That's where the answer is.
Yes. But I said, what do you want to do? And I said, well, I don't want to embarrass myself. That would be, I don't want to go and embarrass myself. And I think, through what's gone on with quizzing and the quizzing community, I am a better quizzer than I was when I initially applied 8 years ago. I've got a couple of the Mastermind books out there, and I remember my partner reading them to me about 8 or 10 years ago and just going through the GK sets. And although the GK canon of the old Mastermind books is completely different to the canon now, oh my goodness, it's so difficult. But I'm kind of, I said I not to embarrass myself, and the next target was to get 20, and I achieved that.
Yeah.
And the next target above that was to win the round, and it was very close.
Yeah.
And I
next
think
time.
And there's other people, had I been in another round, or not, another round where the high score was sort of in the mid-20s, and I'd have probably come, second, maybe third with 20. I'd probably be happier with that a little bit than how close I was now. But I still know I'd have probably struggled in the semi. I now know if I was to reapply again, I think I've got an idea of how I'd try and campaign it to, try and at least have some questions prepared for a semi if I get through, in order just to hit that next stage running. Probably try and not do such an onerous amount of books, maybe just try and do something with 1 or 2 source books.
Yeah, well, as I say, the first time is for reconnaissance. You did well. Next time, you know what you're facing, you know how you can do your technique. Let's have a look at the predictions. These were the most popular predictions that came in. As somebody said in the chat, we had the digestive system followed by poo, which was nice. Red Rabbit, Peter Tillett, Crete, and Baltimore. I don't think any of those came up in your set. So nobody scored any points. In fact, it was quite a low scoring week this week. Unusually, probably our lowest scoring, I think. So these were the only scorers. Emma Napa, Huang Yi, Michael McPartland, Pam Douglas, Philip Isaac, and Shanine Salmon all got unique answers, so all got 2 points. That should mean, if I click on, that Philip Isaac is now going to be clear at the top by 2 points from Ed Mason. Tim Hall didn't score this week. Pam has caught up a little bit of ground, as has Michael and Emma. So that's our predictions competition. Fascinating stuff, really interesting insights, particularly kind of the quiz VAR and all that, Chris. We're going to need to move on, and because we've got Justin waiting for us. So I'll just play a quick video, and then we'll be back with Justin. If you like what we do here at All Things Quiz, then please make sure you click the subscribe button. Please also click the like button that helps YouTube to recommend us to other people like you. You can also share our videos with others and click the notifications button to make sure you're alerted whenever we release a new video. So delighted now. Thank you so much. Chris is going to be sticking on. Chris being, as we heard earlier, a University Challenge veteran. But we're going to bring on Justin from Imperial. Evening, Justin.
Evening, Gareth. Evening, Chris.
Evening.
Congratulations,
Carol.
Justin. Here a mascot. Tell us about the mascot.
Well, this is every Imperial, not every Imperial team, or most teams from most teams who get on the show have a mascot placed between the second and third players to boost morale and all that.
Mm-hmm.
And within I think one Imperial team before us had a jar of aquafaba, which is a jar of water and beans. I have no idea what persuaded them to do so, but that's their decision, and I think they were the one. I think they did very well. I think it's Brandon's team. So this otter is something a very close friend of mine gave me. Well, he didn't know it was going to be on TV like me, but it's a somewhat cute figure. If you go back the episodes and look at our first game against Balion, you see that the otter's naked, but we put more decorations on it. You see this robe. It's actually made by Fatima Sharif.
Hey, we love Fatima.
Well, yeah. Well, there's a little mishap in which we might have mispositioned the colors of the Imperial logo, in which these two should have been swapped.
Oh.
But it didn't really turn up too poorly for us.
No. I mean, I know that mascots are a thing with University Challenge and have been since forever. I mean, how much is that kind of a bit of a morale boost? How much is it a kind of I don't know, the sort of fun thing that helps you to relax?
Well, I guess our team wants to be represented. Which, when you get on TV, you will get represented, but you want to choose your method of representation. And besides, plushies are cute.
Chris, did you have a mascot when you were on?
We had a phoenix because effectively that was in the crest of the University of East London, and our skipper Jerusha Jardine bought a phoenix and had to take. I think she had to take a photo of it to send to producers. Trouble is, she got a phoenix from Harry Potter. So the producers saw that and said, "Where's that from?" And she said, I got it from sort of Harry Potter shop." And they said, "No, we can't really do brands, I'm afraid." So then she crocheted her own, and it's up there on the photo, but it's probably too difficult to take down. She crocheted her own sort of cushion with a phoenix on it.
Nice.
So the phoenix was our mascot.
It is one of the quirks of University Challenge, isn't it? I guess by the time you get to this round, Justin, you're actually pretty used to the format and being in studio and quizzing with your teammates. So probably all you want is for the game to get going.
Oh yeah. So before we start actually getting on to getting the proper questions asked, we get sample questions. Mm-hmm. And those I joked about being the most important part of the round, because it's such a huge morale boost if we get these before the other team.
Yeah, do you feel like you're trying to kind of score mental points against them in that warm up?
Yeah. I talked about our quizzing strategy the last time we went on in September.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's interesting. When you get to this stage, though, you know that Manchester are another institution with a fantastic history on the show that have been doing really well in your series. And there was very little between the two teams initially, at least. I guess in that context, both teams know that actually you're really good and probably it's going to come down to the finest margins. Did you have any knowledge of Manchester before you played them? Had you come across them before?
All we've known is that they have won all 3 games as well, and that we were going to play each other the moment we beat Sheffield.
Yeah.
Because, well, Manchester beat Birkbeck, so it's going to be us.
Yeah.
And it's going to be, looking at our previous records of University Challenge victories, it's going to be 4-4. It's going to be the El Clasico of University Challenge, so to speak.
Yeah.
And, well, I was a bit nervous at first.
Yeah.
Then I decided to take some time relaxing, fly back home to Canada, get to visit some of my favorite restaurants, talk with my ever-loving family and all that. I had a nice Easter, and then flew back a week early to get used to the jet lag, which was a strategy that worked. Can't have, another Sheffield incident.
Interesting you say about flying back to Canada, because you had that bonus set on Canadian provincial capitals. Was that almost like the nightmare scenario for you? That because you said I'm from Hong Kong and Canada. Everybody's going to be thinking, oh well, here we go. Justin's got this. Was that
one of the 3? One of the 3.
Yeah, you did get you got the final one.
Yeah, I was a bit nervous at the end. I don't really deal with what ifs, but I might have stood a better chance if the question had been asked earlier.
Interesting. So it didn't hurt you though. I mean, by that point, the team was doing very well.
Yeah,
you had a very good night. You were the top buzzer on the show.
I don't know how many I got actually.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I make it with 1 neg. So Wallachia, Stadium of Light, Italy, baseball, Somalia, 1820s, and Cambodian Vietnamese. All really good answers. I particularly like the 1820s one, because having to do that mental kind of, I don't know, Gantt chart of who's alive when and where the crossover point. That was great. How were you processing that in your brain? Did you get to a certain point of, okay, there are enough here that I know we're alive in this decade and just go for it?
Well, I know that Galois, I think he died in 1830, and Nat Turner did his whole slave revolt thing in 1831 and died because of it. So it should either be 20s or 30s. And then hearing all the other names, gave me confidence that it was earlier. So I just went for 20s.
Yeah, that's good clarity of thought in the heat of battle. I mean, yes. So sorry.
When we were playing the Oxford Colleges, Balliol and Lincoln, we never went behind, and against Sheffield, we went behind for 5 points once, and it's like my heart went down a little, tripped over a little staircase.
Yeah.
And this game against Manchester, it's like a massive chasm that my heart fell down, and oh no, this is going to be a tight one.
Yeah, because you were behind actually for quite a lot of the first part of the show.
Yeah.
And you weren't necessarily converting bonus sets heavily when you did get in.
Yeah, this is. But for bonuses, this might just be our worst scoring percentages. And of course, I might have messed up the first. Picture round. So I just answered incorrectly. I think Ilya Kuhlman from Manchester got it right. And the next time I looked, there were like 5 Twitter comments. There were 5 Twitter comments like, Pele in the 2022 World Cup? Really?
Oh dear. I mean, but that's the key. Sometimes you're looking for a key to unlock a question, aren't you? And that is, but if you don't spot it.
Well, I was not expecting a sports question in
the pictures.
This is probably the first one this season.
We've got a visitor here popping in. This is Fatima popping in to say hi, Justin. Have fun. Me and Michael K go watch the episode now. Fatima, good to see you. We've seen your handiwork with the mascot just earlier, so good to see you, Fatima. Always good to see you. Chris, I mean, we just heard from Justin about that kind of feeling of being behind. Have you had that sense when you were on University Challenge of, we're behind and I can't manage to kind of get back in?
We played Glasgow in our first round. It was a very tight game. There was never more than, I think, a starter and bonuses between us. And I think, especially at the end, ourselves included, didn't necessarily know what the score was. You went bong and we've won. There's as I said, University of East London. You don't necessarily expect that sort of quiz pedigree from there. Even at the time on social media, people were going, University of East London, you're having a laugh. And I'm very proud of what we did, having a very, very tight game. I think it was 135, 155 to us. And then we met the brick wall that was Warwick in the second round. And just almost like I don't know if, you're a sports fan, and it's just like playing sport and being there, and you're competing, but you're not competing. You're just witnessing. I think, although Warwick were a bit, I think, unfortunate. I don't think did they make the semis that year? And they may not have. I can't remember. But at least they got to the quarterfinals. Just watching that brilliance in that game and being witness to it when you're being absolutely hammered and you can do nothing about it. When the second year East London team got on 2 years later, they had a very close game with Manchester. Your opponent, obviously a different set of students, but your opponents today, Imperial, and they lost, and that was fairly hard to take because again it was fairly close, and I was in the audience for that because I was sort of part of the team that put them together and was supporting them, and especially in the audience, which we don't have now for University Challenge. You're just sitting there, and then you see the floor manager come out, and you're looking at the scores, and I was just willing for more time, willing for a starter, willing for bonuses. In terms of the gong's coming, you just want it, and effectively again, I think and you just want it, and you're just so disappointed because the analysis of it in your head is going off. If you'd have done that in that set of questions, if you'd have not negged there, the ifs, the what's, the maybes, and I don't know whether again I'd have to watch it back. My body language was changing during that dark patch in my GK, and I was leaning more and more forward, I don't know what effectively any good it would do. There's no, the imperceptible distance change is not going to make any changes. But I was leaning more and more forward, just trying to sort of get something. I don't know what good it did, but just trying to get something just to get back in the game, because I knew at that time I wasn't counting in my head, but I just knew it was going to be very tight. And I found that for the first record, it wasn't good enough until sort of they self-appealed. So yeah, it's very emotional.
So it's interesting, Justin, looking at your game, because Imperial's been very, very strong this series, and probably been the team where everybody else, your opposition has been sat back watching you and been, it's a privilege to be hammered by Imperial, but it wasn't going your way in this match. I'm just looking 3, 6, 9, 12 starters in, and you were down 100 to 85 points. And it was only at that point that all of a sudden Imperial it's like putting your foot down on the accelerator, and you managed to just kind of whiz off. I think you got 6 consecutive starters, and then you shared the last 2 between the two of you. Is there just something in your team dynamics that just finds another gear, or is it just the questions fell your way?
I think it's a bit of both, because, the questions are more history focused, which suits me very well. But, we're down. I think more than halfway. It was after the music round, right? And so we needed to buzz early.
Yeah.
Needed to take risks. And we did. And it worked out.
Yeah. And it's interesting. Amal said about how you'd a tendency to answer quickly, and to kind of rush through your bonuses. Certainly in the earlier rounds, you were doing that, and you were racking up huge scores because you were getting through the bonuses. Tonight, there was an element where the speed of answer caused an error, the catalyst, catalysis.
Yeah.
Is that just an inherent risk of we want to get through this stuff? There might be a miscommunication, but you just forget about it and move on.
Yeah. So if we do the unit bonuses quick, if we're down, then we could get back up, and then if we're up, we could widen the lead. It's all psychological, I guess.
It's quite a merciless approach, really, isn't it? Because as long as you get that next buzz, and then you whiz through the bonuses, and as you did, say you got 6 consecutive buzzes, very quickly you can create a wide gap. And you went from being 15 points down to 6 buzzes later, 95 points up or something like that. I mean, it's just that was the turnaround. Interesting to hear that it was a deliberate tactic. I want to say a word about Manchester. I thought they were a very good team as well.
They were.
I thought Grady did some brilliant play and fished out some great answers. The Charlotte Perkins Gilman one was just that kind of you I guess you just recognize a classy quizzer when you see them.
Right thing up.
Yeah. So I mean, so they were a very good team. Do you get a sense when you're in the studio that both teams are going for it at the same time and you're just pipping them to it?
Oh yeah, they're Manchester. We're Imperial. 5 for 5.
Yeah, I mean Manchester are just phenomenal. They're not led by Stephen Pearson anymore. For many years, he used to run the team. So they
he was still on. I don't know.
Sorry,
I thought he was still on.
Well, I spoke to him recently, and he said because I tried to get him on the show, and he said he hadn't been helping them for this series. So I believe they got somebody else. But nonetheless, Manchester got a fine pedigree, as have you, Imperial. And I think we heard last time about how Michael Cohen and Fatima and I think Michael Mays and others had supported your team. Taking a step back, what's the best thing about being on University Challenge?
Well, I guess it's something you by the competition rules you do it once per lifetime. And I guess it feels like the pinnacle of a quizzing career, I guess.
Wow, pinnacle of a quizzing career at your age. There's more to come, Justin. Surely there's got to be more to come than.
Maybe it's like one of those I don't know SN1 reactions where there are 2 peaks.
Oh wow! I mean, you're making me feel stupid even now because I kind of get that there was something clever going on there, but I mean, if that was a science restaurant reference, I didn't have it. No, I get the point that you can have these multiple peaks in life, and I think what we've seen with Fatima and Michael and others is that there is that potential. You can go on to other things. So that's kind of the best thing. I mean, was it something you were aware of before you went to university? I'm presuming you grew up in either Hong Kong or Canada based on your introduction.
I went to Brighton for sixth form, and I heard of University Challenge. One of my friends, who's currently also in uni, we still kind of are in touch, has talked about, maybe I should try for Magdalen College, Oxford, because they've got 4 University Challenge wins, and we can add a 5th there. And now I'm on another one of those 4, with those teams with those institutions with 4 titles, playing another institution with 4 titles, and we came out on top, and we're in the semi-finals. It's a bit cathartic. It's just a bit away.
Yeah.
Depending on how the other matches go, and we don't know who we'll be playing yet. Which I will.
Yes, we'll keep that secret, Justin. We'll keep that secret. We'll look forward to that one.
And just to chill off, we decided to go into downtown Manchester and have a nice go to a Thai restaurant. That was fun. Maria's from Manchester, so she knows all the good stuff, where the good stuff are. And then, yeah, it's funny because we've got more. Imperial's got more people from Manchester than Manchester.
Weird how that sort of thing happens. Chris, I guess one comment, final comment from you on University Challenge. What was your biggest kind of takeaway from being on University Challenge?
Interesting question. I think the feeling of pride for doing it, the pride for getting on, the pride for being the first team from University of East London. I think I was the first member of my family to attend university, although for me it was going back to do a master's because I'd done sort of, I'm practically, I was 42 then, I'm 50 now. I did a degree obviously when I was sort of in my late teens, early 20s, and it's just the pride for that, the pride for there's a whole lot of pride and prestige for University Challenge. It's much more not, I wouldn't say elite. Elite's obviously too overused for University Challenge. It's much more selective because of the nature of the competitors than say Only Connect, than say Mastermind. And I think there's an element of pride you bring to yourself and your institution for that. And I don't know. I haven't been associated with East London for a while. If someone came up to me and said, "Can you help us get a team to get a team to get on the reunited version, on the Christmas version," I'd be willing for that. I think there's a few potential reasonable alumni to get on that, and I think I'd be up for that.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think there's lots of people who would jump at that. We got a question from Duncan for you, Justin. How does he's corrected the spelling in his next post? How does Justin feel about the possibility of entering Mastermind?
I'm not averse to the idea. I just need to do 3 things. One is to make sure that if I get on, my visa doesn't run out halfway through, so I don't really have the right to get onto the show. The second is to actually find a way to travel to Belfast to film, which I haven't been in this country for long enough to really know that. And thirdly,
they would fly you there.
What?
They would fly you there.
Okay, that's good. Well, from London or from Canada.
Well, yes. Good point. Probably from London. Yes.
Okay, and finally, I need to brush up on the black hole that is my knowledge of British pop culture.
Yes. And that is, I guess, one of the problems. We have seen a number of very good non-British people playing Mastermind. I remember Didier Bruyer getting to the grand final. He's French, and he had to work on the BritCon stuff. I mean, there's no getting around it. That they could ask you a question about EastEnders that 90% of the audience is going to be knowing, but if you didn't grow up with it, it becomes really difficult. So, but that shouldn't put you off, Justin, because what we've seen tonight and seen throughout the series is that if you can nail your specialist subject, you put yourself in a very strong position ahead of the general knowledge. So,
well, I guess I'm the most important part of every quiz competition, whether you're going on TV or not, is to have fun.
Indeed, and that has to be the aim. It's not always easy to have fun.
It's easy if you're on that black chair with 3 cameras pointed at you. I don't know if it's 3. I've never been on there, but oh gosh, it's going to be so nervous.
I mean, it is pretty nerve-wracking, but nonetheless, again, like most quizzes, once you're in the middle of it, the game takes over and you just play. So fantastic performance, Justin, from Imperial tonight. A comfortable margin of victory in the end, but you had to work for it. Did you feel that this was perhaps the first time that Imperial was pushed this series?
Well, I wouldn't say so. It's more like the 4th time in 4 games, because all of our opponents played very, very well. But yeah, this is perhaps the most tense situation. And well, we managed to dig ourselves out.
Yeah, and now you're in the semi-finals, so we really look forward to that. Gerard, well, Duncan's saying you obviously have fun, and
I do.
Gerard, Justin, you certainly look to be having fun. I see your wave in the intro was particularly enjoyed on Twitter.
Yeah, I seem to have gathered a bit of attention.
Well, I mean, it's great to play with a smile on your face, and you certainly do. So that makes it really great to watch you. So thank you so much, Justin, for coming on once more. Before we leave, I need to run through a few things. So let me bring presentation up. The winner of last week's What Is the Question was Benny Bilstein. With this one, the answer was sick because I was sick. And the question was eating a mixture of silicon, carbon, and potassium would make you what? So well done, Benny. This week's answer in need of a question is Jordan. Go to tinyurl.com/WITQ Jordan to vote for the long list on that. Now I'm going to have to skip. Oh no, it's one more. Lunchtime quiz time is every day on Facebook and Twitter. This was today's about the mysterious affair at Styles. If you just want to play along, answer the question about 12 o'clock, and later on in the day we give you some additional information, hopefully some interesting facts. Now I'm going to skip past Mastermind. And last week's Quizzer of the Week was Evan Lynch for his win in the International Culture Challenge. Oscar Siddle was second for his Quiz Bowl activities. Caroline McKay for her counterpoint performance was third. Team of the Week was Durham A for their quiz bowling. Korsakoship, a Dutch team, won a major team quiz in the Netherlands, their second. And the Zoomsbury group, full of Justin's university and University Challenge related chums, came third for their performance in Connections Online Quiz League. Quizzer of the Week nominations then this week. James Bingham for winning Counterpoint semi-final 1 today. Richard Brooks, who we saw earlier win the Mastermind heat in that thrilling game against Chris in the tiebreak. In leagues, Scott Blish and Mark Grant both got 14 out of 15. And Mimir as well. David Hesp got the only OQL full house of the week. Phil Steindl was loads of people got 7 out of 8 in OQL USA last week. He was in Division 5, so the lowest placed player to do that. Michael McPartland got 14 out of 15 in Pop Culture Challenge, the best owns in that competition. And Stanley Wang was the lowest placed player in Quiz League of London with 7 out of 8. And Team of the Week nominees, well, Imperial College are nominated for their win tonight. Also nominated this week, Yorkshire won the Merseyside Quiz League Buzzer tournament at the weekend. In a tournament in Czechia, All In won the open quiz. That was a 93-team quiz. Telstars Redux beat OQL's Division 4 leaders. So they're nominated. In OQL, Scatterbrains were the top scorers overall. Sobermetrics beat OQL USA's Division 2 national leaders. And Motley Crue were the top scorers in the Asian Quiz League. And Pericardium beat Division 1's leaders and top scored in QLL. So you can now vote at tinyurl.com/QW12Feb24 for those votes. Coming up, the next All Things Quiz is on the 25th of February. You need to be a patron to come. Go to patreon.com/allthingsquiz if you want to come along to that. There's a number of other competitions starting up. You can see details here. Connections Online Quiz League, OQL Individual Championships on 24th of February, Celtic Nations, Bundesliga, and OQL Weekender. So those are all coming up. All of our links you can see there at the Linktree address, and you can nominate anybody for team and Quizzer of the Week at tinyurl.com/ATQ nominations. That should be it for this week. So we've had an absolute thriller of a match with Chris in Mastermind, and fantastic insights from Chris in how they filmed it and what it was like, and his own journey to the black chair. We wish you all the best of luck, Chris, next time you're on. We know you're a fantastic quizzer. We know you will come back with a vengeance next time you are on.
Thank you.
And Justin, well, we've enjoyed watching Imperial yet again. You're semi-finalists yet again. So we look forward to watching Imperial as you take on the mighty whoever in the semi-final. But it will be a good team, whoever it is, because there's some great teams left.
Because they will be in the semi-finals as well.
Yes. And you don't get in the semi-finals by accident. So well done to Justin and team. And we hope we'll catch up with you before the end of the series as well. Don't forget, to vote for what is the question, tinyurl.com/WITQ Jordan. We've just gone through the vote for Quizzer and Team of the Week. And yes, we will see. We don't know who's going to be on the various shows next week yet. So we will see who the guests may be. But until then, once more, thanking you for watching and for commenting. Chris and Justin for entertaining us, because without quizzes going on TV shows, we have nothing to enjoy and nothing to chat about. So thank you, both of you, so much. And we will be back again and see you again soon.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Have a good evening.